This is probably one of the most important verses of the entire teachings of the Vedic literature. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O Senakunti, that state he will attain without fail. Today is September 7th, 2018. And today 2 deaths took place. One auspicious death and one inauspicious death. The auspicious death was a sannyasi guru in our movement named Gunagrahi Maharaj. He left his body in a very holy city called Vrindavan. If we were to leave our body, ideally for the Vaishnavas, Vrindavan is the place to be. He was also surrounded by all his loving disciples. He was surrounded by his god brothers. They were chanting Hare Krishna in his ear. They were doing kirtan. They even had tulsi leaves. And this is how he departed his body. Very auspicious. There was also an inauspicious death that took place, which I just found out a few hours ago, by a hip-hop rapper named Mac Miller, who was only 26 years old. Very well-known, famous in the community, but died because of a overdose. And they still don't know the exact details. But it just brings to the point how life is all about choices. I remember when we have the morning celebrations, Mangal Arti, it would be 4:30 in the morning. It's completely dark, and everybody would be in this temple room with their hands folded in prayer position. And then usually around 5:30 I go for a morning walk. And I remember seeing those same 2 hands being then folded behind somebody because they were getting arrested. And it just reminds me of the point that life is all about choices. So the Bhagavad Gita and the yoga literatures are helping us attain a level where we can always constantly make the right choice, because it clears the negative dust clouds and we can completely take instructions from the super soul within. So how do we attain such a level of acting in this world? The great avatar of the Bhakti Yoga tradition is Lord Chaitanya, who you can see on the ceiling, all his paintings. And he has written 8 prayers called the Shishashtakam. And the number 1 first prayer starts with Cheto Darpana Marjanam, that we have to cleanse the mind. We have to clean the mind, and then we can begin to have a communication with the super soul within. It's because of the mind that is causing so many distractions, so many mischoices, so many wrong choices. So it all starts with controlling the mind. And so that seems to be a big problem in the world these days, that people just don't know how to control their mind. And they often turn to stimulations and other sources. But if they were to just battle what's going on within and take up a higher process, let go of some of their bad habits, they can see that their mind is being cleansed. And ultimately they say that chanting this mantra, the Hare Krishna mantra, is so powerful, so transcendental, so effective that immediately it could cleanse all the dust that we've accumulated for many lives. And I've practically seen this. I think many of us have practically seen such a action taking place. And usually when we're in it, we can't really see what's going on. For instance, I can even relate this to my career as a music producer. When I was a music producer, I was making beats from year 2006 to 2013. I would be in the studio every day for hours, and I would be constantly making tracks. And at the time, I just didn't really see any type of progress or change. I was just making beats every single day. But if I was to show you a beat from 2006 and a beat from 2013, you would see a whole world of difference. And in the same way, if you were to see your life years before, when you first started devotional service, and now it's how it's become now, you will see such a vast amount of difference. So it's very fortunate that we're part of such a tradition and movement that really focuses on cleansing our own minds for purification. And when our minds are cleansed, then we can help cleanse other people's minds. I think a big problem with the world today is that maybe previously there was a lack of information, but now it seems like there's over information. There's too much information. And they have this saying where we should try to learn something, then we should live by it, and then we should try to give it out to others. So we should learn it, we should live it, and then we should give it. But what goes on these days is that people learn what they're supposed to do constantly. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, there's so many positive quotes, so many messages, so they learn it. And then immediately they want to share it with others. They want to go out and give it to others. So they learn it and then they want to give it. But they have seemed to miss the second step, which is to actually live it. And that is a big problem in society, that we should have this type of education where we can actually live these teachings. And it starts at an early age, I would say, because this type of information is not really being taught in our education system. In schools, you go to a university. So a university stems from the word universal. Universal means there must be material knowledge and there must be spiritual knowledge to complete the universal picture. But there's too much focus on the material side that there's no side for spirituality practically. And that's why we take it as our duty as members of this mission to go to the universities and start programs to help people understand this higher knowledge, give people an access to this higher knowledge, and distribute books with this higher knowledge. So a big part of our mission is book distribution and outreach preaching. And it's very wonderful when you can actually see somebody transforming their lives just how we were transformed once before. And I've had many encounters and experiences when it comes to this book distribution. Actually, everyone, whether they know it or not, is looking for this type of wisdom, but they need a certain amount of kicks sometimes to then finally realize that this is what I was seeking for. I remember this one incident where I set up a book table, and all of a sudden I saw this lady, she was maybe 100 feet away, but she was running full speed at this book table that I was at. And she really looked like a football player. I thought I was going to get tackled. She comes and she just grabs everything. She grabs all the books. I even have a toy elephant on my table. She even grabbed that. I'm like, wait a minute, this is not part of it. And she's like, thank you so much. I can't believe you're here. I'm so happy. She took all these books. She gave a nice contribution. And I was like, wow, this is like really wonderful that she's so enthusiastic. And she had the like crystal necklaces on. She had a yoga mat hanging out of her purse. So I was under the impression that she's been practicing for many years. But actually, she told me that if you were here 1 month ago, I would have never stopped at this table. I would have completely avoided this table and would have had no interest whatsoever in any of these books. And I found this very surprising because here she was with a yoga mat and yoga pants and yoga crystal. She was yogaed out. And I was like, 1 month? What happened in that month for that such a transformation? And she said that she was a real party person. She liked to go to the clubs and party as what college students do. And one night, it was a Saturday night, she was out partying, it was late at night, and then around 2 in the morning, she was stumbling to her car. And as she was stumbling to her car, all of a sudden she felt something here, and she got held at gunpoint. And when she got held at gunpoint, her whole life flashed before her eyes, and she realized how precious life was. And luckily, she got spared. I think they still took her money or whatever it was, but she realized, oh my God, I need to get serious in life. And that's when she started to take to the yoga process. So we come to this world, we have this feeling of let me enjoy, let me just try to seek as much pleasure as possible. But then when sobering moments like this lady's situation took place, then she begins to realize, oh wow, I need to really understand the self. Life is short, life is precious. I don't actually have that much time on this planet. It may look like we have a lot of time, but in reality, it really goes by very quickly. So the Bhagavad Gita is really recommending that we begin to focus our life on higher values. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the talk, that today we had two deaths that took place. One was from a Swami in our movement, Gunagrahi Maharaj, who left in Vrindavan very auspiciously, and one was from a rapper named Mac Miller, who was only 26 years old and died from an overdose. So again, life is all about choices, and we should make as many conscious choices as possible in order to then fulfill and really satisfy Krishna's choice and what he wants for us. So I'll just like pause for a second, a little timeout, commercial break. Maybe I can just get a reflection thus far. Christian, you got the microphone, so it's on you.
Well, you kind of spoke about like that moment in life where you have to think about well, I have to take life seriously. Like it's like a reality check. Like I had one of those like 2 years ago. It was like I was taking like a lot of intoxication, especially like drugs, like narcotics. And it came to a point where I was like so anxious and always like depressed. And I thought about like, oh, life would be like simple if I could just like end it, and it'll just be like I don't have to deal with it no more. But then I thought like, oh, well, what if I end my life and then like my parents have to pay like so much money like your funeral, like they have to take over your car payments. And I was like, wow, I'm just adding like even more load on someone else just to get it off of me. So then I'm like, wow, like I should do something different. Like, cause like I don't think this is like the solution. Like life must be more valuable than this if you can just easily take it away. Like like there must be something valuable of life. You can't just simply like give it up and just, you know, like you can say like I was thinking about suicide. So to me I was like there must be something better. So that's when I started coming here thanks to one of the devotees here. His name is Hari Bhakta, and and then that's when I had that reality check of like, wow, man, like I have to do something better with my life. And once I started taking to this process of chanting, like I didn't feel anything at first, but I was very inspired by the devotees here at the temple. Like, just their lifestyle was honestly like, it was amazing. And I looked up to them and I started thinking like, wow, these are like the type of people that I want to hang out with. These are like my role models. I had older brothers, but like they dropped out of school. I looked up to them because they had various better personality than I did. I was always like an angry person. So I looked up to them because they were just very relaxed and they had a better personality. But when I saw devotees, how that like their personalities were like beyond normal. It was just like transcendental. Like it was like wow, like these are not just ordinary people. These are like, you know, they're devotees of Krishna. It's crazy. I never seen that in my life before.
Nice. Nice. We had a program last night at a place called Mantra House, and it was mentioned in the talk how this is a place where people around you just want to help you. They want to hear your problems. They want to really have a genuine interest in who you are and try to uplift you. And we can personally see that from this personalism, how much of an impact it makes on people's lives. There's 26 qualities to a pure devotee. And the number one quality that's mentioned is kindness. That's the first one that is shown. And just by having those qualities, it really makes a strong impression in people's lives, because actually there's a shortage in kindness these days. We have these deficits going on these days. They talk about the oil deficit, or the gold deficit, or the clean water environmentalism deficit, but how about the kindness deficit? How about the appreciation deficit? This is something that's also lacking. And just by somebody taking to this process, they begin to obtain these qualities. And then when they go out into the public or places, people are very impressed. Just like Srila Prabhupada's life, being a 70-year-old man, and coming at a time where nobody wanted to follow anybody over age 30. That was the type of scene that was created in the 60s. But by seeing Srila Prabhupada's floating-like nature, almost not even touching the ground, by being so equipoised and so artistic in his movements, and just so spiritual, that people couldn't help but follow this individual. So we have that responsibility as well, and Krishna gives us that power in order to try to fulfill that as much as possible. Just like in the Nectar of Instruction, Upadesh Amrita, by Rupa Goswami, there's the second verse. The first verse talks about Vacho Megam Manasha Krodha Vegam, that we have to learn to control the senses. Then the second verse talks about Atyahara Prayasasya Jalpaniyamagraha. It gets into the things we should avoid when dealing with devotional service, such as negative influence, etc. But the third verse, Utsahan Nishyadarya Tat Tat Karma Pravartanat Sangatyagat Sato Vrite Sadbir Bhaktir Prasidyati. This verse is all about 6 items that enhance our mood, enhance our devotion as much as possible. So the first one that's mentioned, it's Utsahan. Do you guys know what Utsahan means? In my native language, Gujarati, when we want someone to get up, we say ut, like ut. So utsahan literally means get up. Utsahan means enthusiasm, and enthusiasm in Krishna consciousness is so powerful. Having that fire, that desire to really preach this message, it really takes us a long way. It's not that we're in this movement to eat really nice rice and dal cooked, but no, it's actually trying to give rice and dal to others, trying to help others. We want to see the world become Krishna conscious, and we're following in the mood of our previous acharyas, previous spiritual teachers. So utsahan is a very powerful thing. Actually, even the word enthusiasm comes from the Latin entheos. Entheos. Theo means God, like theology, and en means in. So entheos literally means divinely inspired. That's the original meaning of enthusiasm. So when we do have enthusiasm, it's that Krishna has entered in us, and we have become an instrument for Krishna. So this is something that's really recommended. So what are some ways in which we can get inspired in Krishna consciousness? Yeah, like what do you, how are some ways you guys get inspired? I would really like to know.
Well, one way I get inspired is usually by seeing how like the community, well, most like individuals, like they do they do like a selfless service, like they do it without being attached to the results or wanting anything in return. So that inspires me a lot.
Mm. Yeah, I remember what really inspired me when I was first coming to the temples. I've been coming to temples my whole life, but when I was taking it seriously on my own, I remember going to this center in Laguna Beach, the Laguna Beach ISKCON temple, and there was this really nice speaker giving a class named Vaisheshika Prabhu. Do you guys know Vaisheshika Prabhu? Oh, okay. And he just gave a very amazing talk. It was almost in the mood of a standing ovation at the end, got everyone fired up, etc. And then it was time to serve out the dinner, the prasadam. And Vaisheshika Prabhu got off of his throne-like seat of Vyasa-san and got on his knees and then began serving everyone the dinner personally. And I was just thinking, you don't really see this in the material world, that someone who speaks from a high position and then moves amongst his people and serves them. So that also is something that really impressed me, to serve selflessly. It's really nice. And I remember the next year we had this big Ratha Yatra festival, and for the whole day I got to make pasta with him in the kitchen. And I've never had so much fun making pasta. This mood of service and doing it for a greater picture, not just for your own self-pleasure, but actually pleasing others and giving others a higher taste of reality is really satisfying. And that's also the mood that you receive in book distribution, that when you go out and give books to people, there's nothing like it, because ultimately we're people and we like to meet people. there's that verse in Srimad Bhagavatam that says that fire is already contained in wood. Uh, you guys know that, right? Like, fire is in wood. And when wood comes in contact with other wood, then the fire begins to ignite. So in the same way, when our soul comes in contact with other spiritually elevated souls, then our soul ignites. And I even noticed this last night at our Mantra House program, that there was this Kundalini teacher that came. And he was young. He was maybe 30, 31 years old. But he felt so happy being at the Mantra House. He felt, wow, this is so cool. There's so many young people who are into spiritual life, and they're making it cool. They're making it fun. It's not this boring, stiff thing, but it's actually a lot of enjoyment. And there's falafels, and there's nice music. So this is personally one of my missions, to just make Krishna consciousness cool. That's something that I think really would be effective for the new generation as much as possible. Yeah. Did you have any ways you get inspired in Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, I think it's like a package deal, like keeping the vibration going, always hearing either online or coming to a class, and of course association, as you guys have mentioned, and staying on top of reading, even if it's just a little bit every day, and chanting every day, however much you can do, and yeah, and staying plugged in. Association is one of the most important things. So for me, it's like a whole package thing that I always have to do, like every day, to keep inspired.
Yeah, reading is so nice. I often see these purports, and I think about the genius side of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada has even mentioned that one time he was reading his books, and the disciples are like, "Oh, Srila Prabhupada, you're reading your own books?" And he's like, I didn't write these books. Krishna wrote these books. I was just the instrument for them." And so it's so powerful. And I've also noticed, just reading even a sentence a day, just even opening up the book, it's so good for the consciousness, because throughout the day we're going to be reading so much. We don't think we read a lot, but we do. If you add up all the time you're on the internet and the computer, or just like looking around and reading, we're always reading. But if we can dovetail that reading to Srila Prabhupada's purports and translations, it's so satisfying for the heart. And it's nice to meditate on the purports of this book and the translations, but it's also nice to meditate on Srila Prabhupada writing these purports and writing these translations. So if we can dive into Srila Prabhupada's pastimes and the different stories he encountered and the things he went through, it will only deepen our devotional service to a much greater level. Because ultimately, it's Prabhupada who is the center of our spiritual life. So the more we keep feeding that center, the more nectar we're going to feel. And I remember before I joined the temple, what I would do every day was watch at least 10 Prabhupada memory videos. There's a lot of Prabhupada's disciples who have been recorded giving stories of Prabhupada memories, and they're all on YouTube. And if you just watch a little bit and just hear different excerpts and stories, it's really amazing. I feel sometimes that I've learned more philosophy from reading Prabhupada's Lilamrita than I did from reading Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, because you get to see the philosophy in action. You get to see the living Bhagavat, and that's Prabhupada. So for me, that is a real great source of inspiration in my life, to just plug into Prabhupada's life. And yeah, it's really nice. So that is the first step to increasing our devotional service, is having that enthusiasm, that inspiration in Krishna consciousness. And then the second thing that's mentioned in this verse is nishchayad, which means to endeavor with confidence. So to actually have confidence in devotional service, have confidence in these Vedic literatures, have confidence in who you are and the value that you can bring. If you break up this word confidence, then confidence comes from the Latin fidere, confidence, so you get fidere, where you also get words like fidelity. And what does fidelity mean? You have infidelity, which means you cheat on somebody. So what does fidelity mean? You stay loyal. So fidelity actually means trust. And anytime you have con in front of a word, it means fully, completely. So confidence literally means fully trusting. You're fully trusting of Krishna. You're fully trusting of his instructions. You're fully trusting of our spiritual teachers and of Srila Prabhupada and how things are working out. And in this way, you will operate on a different level because of that confidence. Confidence is very contagious, even on a material realm. People really take notice to that. So what to say about spiritual life? And again, we can see the confidence in Srila Prabhupada to come just on an instruction that I need you to go to the West and spread these teachings to the Westerners. This is something that a lot of people would have backed out on. But Srila Prabhupada had so much confidence in that instruction, and he knew my Guru Maharaj has given this order, it will happen, and it did happen. And actually a lot of Prabhupada's god brothers, they really thought that he was crazy. And they also thought that when it's mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, that soon the Westerners will be chanting Hare Krishna, they admitted that, oh, this is just like a poetic way that it's mentioned, but in their minds they didn't actually think it would happen. But Srila Prabhupada had the confidence to take it on literally. And it's really amazing also because all this is somewhat predicted. When Srila Prabhupada was born, there was an astrologer that said that he was going to open up 108 temples. And Srila Prabhupada opened up 108 temples. And when Srila Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Maharaj, used to give classes, he would give a class, then pause, and then stare into Prabhupada's eyes for 30 seconds and just look at him. And then he would look away and say, and yes, and in the future, one of my disciples will cross this ocean and bring Krishna consciousness to the people. So it's really amazing. Just seeing our story, just seeing our lineage, it's going to give you confidence to really go out and do incredible things. There's really nothing like it. And if we can present it in a palatable way, in the right type of fashion, it has the power to transform people's hearts. So 6 steps to spiritual success, according to this verse. We talked about enthusiasm, we talked about confidence, and the third one is called daryat, which means patience. And this is really interesting because you have enthusiasm and you got confidence, but now you got the whole other side of the spectrum, which is patience. So how can you have enthusiasm and patience at the same time? How does that work? Non-rhetorical question I would like to ask.
I think you can be confident and enthusiastic and patient at the same time if you don't expect results from your efforts, if you
Right.
stay detached.
Right. Yeah, that's right. we have the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. And it's a type of lens where you can take anything in this world, you can take any concept in this world, and you can divide it into these three modes. So you can actually also divide patience in the three modes. You can divide patience in the mode of ignorance, patience in the mode of passion, and patience in the mode of goodness. So what would patience in the mode of ignorance look like? You basically think that everything is going to happen when it needs to happen, and I don't need to do anything. I'll remain patient and it will just all work out on its own. That's actually patience in the mode of ignorance. And then how about patience in the mode of passion? In the mode of passion, you actually don't have patience, you only have enthusiasm. But patience is missing. So you're very passionate. You want to get these things done, and you want to work really hard, and you want to see this happen and that happen right away. That would be patience in the mode of passion. But patience in the mode of goodness is when you have patience and enthusiasm together. So you are very well aware that I need to work hard on my efforts, but you're also patient that when the time is right, Krishna will provide. So you do your duty, but you're not attached to the results, basically. And you can see all good things in this world need patience. If you want to plant a seed, it doesn't just grow right away. You have to give it water, you have to give it sunshine, and eventually the seed will grow into a plant and then bear fruits. All good things need patience. When a woman wants to have a baby, it's not that, oh, I want a baby, and next day she gets a baby. She has to wait 9 months, 10 months. She has to go through the proper diet and proper means in obtaining a healthy baby. All good things need patience. So yes, it's very important to be patient in devotional service as well. A lot of times we want the either accolades, we want to see people become devotees right away, but they're basically like seeds, and we have to also water them constantly, give them love, and sometimes the longer the better, because then they become really amazing devotees at the end. So have patience and enthusiasm and confidence in what you do. And then the fourth step to spiritual success is tat tat karma pravartanat, which basically means practicing the rules of devotional service, following the regulations of devotional service. You have these two words, devotional service, and it is a perfect definition of bhakti yoga. Because if you just had service without devotion, then that's what even people are doing outside to make money, to have different types of means and getting what they need. And if you just have devotion without service, then it can just be lip talk, that I have devotion, but I'm not going to do anything for you. I do have devotion for you, but I'm not going to actually lift up any fingers. So we need service and we need devotion, and we need devotional service. There's even a new song on the radio. Don't ask me how I know, but it's a rap song, and it goes like, walk it like I talk it. Walk it like I talk it. So that's what it is. We gotta walk it like we talk it. We gotta follow through as much as possible. And yeah, that's following the rules and regulations of devotional service. Tat tat karma pravartanat. That is also very important. And then so far we've heard positive words thus far, but now the fifth step to spiritual success is sangha tyagat. What do you think sangha tyagat means? You have this word sangha. What does sangha mean? association. And what is, then maybe you can just guess what would tiagat mean. Microphone.
Um, I wouldn't know. That was hard.
Yeah, tiagat actually means to let go. And let go of negative association. Let go of bad association. So you basically, you can't go up in life if people are trying to bring you down. You actually see this in animals. You actually see this in the lobsters. Do you guys know about this? The lobsters. If you take a bunch of lobsters and you put them in a like a bucket, being like, so they're basically there getting ready to be cooked. There might be one lobster in particular that can really work hard to try to get out of the barrel. And he's trying like anything, and he's reaching the top, and he's almost out of the barrel. And then what do you think happens? Does he come out?
He slips back down.
He actually doesn't slip, but all the other lobsters get envious and they pull him down. So if you have that type of association, it can be very damaging for devotional service. We should try to find good association as much as possible. We heard a whole class last night on association. So it's very important to have that around us as much as possible. I've seen personally that my desires change based on the association that I have. And it's just incredible how that works. How do you think that works? Why do you think that is? That just based on the people that we're hanging out with, our own personal desires change. Why do you think that happens?
Well, I think it happens through a exchange of words and thoughts.
Mm.
Just like when I used to listen to like hip hop music, like it would just be like, oh, okay, I want to live the life they're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just music. It was just like they were just through sound. It wasn't really like, so maybe like getting an association with someone just through listening, like that by sound vibration just like gives you these thoughts. It's like it just comes straight to your head. Like, okay, I want to do that.
Right. Yeah, we are more connected to each other than we think. It's not that we're independent, but we're actually interdependent. We're all connected as part and parcels to Krishna. And that is why our whole mindset can become influenced by another person's mindset. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that it's very dangerous to associate with negative association and like that. But even more dangerous is to associate, maybe I'll say this again. The Srimad Bhagavatam, it says it's for males, it's very dangerous to associate with the opposite sex. But it's even more dangerous for a male to associate with a male who's attached to wanting to associate with the opposite sex. Because that type of consciousness of that person will then come onto you. And like we also heard last night, we might think the goal of life is to get as many phone numbers as we can from girls, and this is what is considered of being a man. But actually, that's more so the life of a dog, because he has failed to control his senses. Just like a dog, they run this way and that way. You become more of a man if you have learned to control your senses and have learned to direct them confidently in the right direction. So, Sangha Tyaga, removing bad association as much as possible, is very important. And bad association is just not in the form of people, but it could be in the form of sounds, like you were mentioning, music or imagery or TV, whatever it may be. We have to protect our consciousness as much as possible. I have a poem where I say, We watch television stations failing to realize they're stationing us. We watch television programs failing to realize they're programming us. So it's very important to just protect our consciousness. And finally, the sixth one out of the 6 steps to spiritual success is Sato Rete. Sato Rete. Sato Rete means to follow those who have done it. Follow the previous masters. Follow the previous acharyas. If we can do this, then we can advance very successfully in Krishna consciousness. So let us constantly try to incorporate this into our lives as much as possible. We should have pop quiz. What are the 6? We should have enthusiasm, confidence, patience, devotional service, removing bad association,
follow the acharyas.
and follow the footsteps of the great acharyas. And this assures spiritual success according to Rupa Goswami, who is we're all considered Rupa Nugas. Nugas means to follow, so we follow in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. And if we follow this, then we will ultimately follow Krishna back home, back to Godhead.